How did I become enlightened? Or another way to put it is, what was my dark night of the soul like? Because it seems to me that the path to enlightenment is the dark night of the soul. This is a crisis, an ultimate crisis, where you are forced to confront your sense of self, your sense of morality, everything that you think is your deepest level. So how did I get there, and what was it like? I've struggled for a long time with anxiety and in relationships with codependency and other mental health issues. And I worked on them bit by bit over the years, made a lot of progress. But I was still acting insecure and feeding into a codependent dynamic in my relationship with my ex. We have a 2-year-old son together. But we had been struggling together with mental health issues and with codependency in our relationship. And a few months ago, she broke up with me for this reason, for both of our mental health. And although I had already been working on mental health, this was a huge impetus. I had been in denial about many of my core wounds and my shadow, as we all are. That's why it's a shadow, is because you deny it, you won't look at it. And my ex had been telling me about these problems of mine, problems in my behavior and things that I couldn't see myself doing. But I couldn't face them until she broke up with me. Then I started to I started to learn. I joined something called personal development school and started learning about more in-depth about core wounds and shadow work, and I learned about somatic processing and how we feel our emotions in our bodies, how our body and mind are one. And I started trying to heal my relationship with my ex, as well as other relationships, like my interactions with my son, using these tools. It was helpful but slow. What really helped me was learning to be present with my emotions, the somatic processing work. So I first learned about my core wounds. I learned intellectually about the landscape of my shadow, where I was likely to find shadows. And I explored why events in my life that may have caused me to create a structure in my ego a feeling of righteousness or wrongness or something, some judgment. And I was trying to do somatic work to correct my nervous system response, to regulate my nervous system response to these triggers. And I did these things for a few months, but in the last few weeks leading up to my enlightenment, I stopped doing a lot of those things, the somatic work and so on, and I just focused on authenticity and presence. And my life continues to be very chaotic. There are a number of very fast-moving, stressful situations going on. And over the last few weeks, I've tried to be very present during these situations, talking to someone who's very, very, very upset, who may be blaming me for things, saying they remember things differently. Many challenges to ego, many emotionally charged interactions. And I remember just crying, and the other person looking at me and saying, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Because I don't need a reason. This is how I feel." And I chose again and again to be vulnerable, even if it made me cry. I just did a lot of this I got to through a woman named Heidi Prieb, and she explained letting go and the dark night of the soul very, very well. And specifically about letting go, that you should just try to be present and feel the pain, and the feeling of the pain will teach you to let go. So I tried to sit with the pain and accept it. I had a breakthrough. I rented a car and drove to Chiriquí, a 6-hour drive to pick up my cat and my son's birth video and some things from our house. We have a house there. And on the drive back, I started to feel something in my chest. And as the time went by, I realized it was grief. And I thought, why am I grieving? And I realized I was grieving the loss of my dream of family. That I dreamed that my ex and I would be together forever with our children, that we'd be 80, 90. surrounded by our grandchildren, and so on. Well, I got home and kept thinking, and I kept I got past that topic, and my memory's a little hazy at this point, honestly. It's the next day. I went to sleep that night. I got home and I went to sleep. And the next day, I was talking to my mom about all these things. My mom has a degree in theology and another one in psychology. So she's been very helpful in this journey. Thank you, Mom. I love you. I was talking to my mom, talking about these emotions and so on, and I was listening to Tool. I remember blasting the song 46 and 2 and just getting lost. And the song is all about shadow work and transcendence. And it talks about letting go of your illusions, stepping through your shadow. At this point, as I say, my memory gets hazy. I don't remember any particular shadow work that I did. I don't remember realizing one by one any new aspects of my shadow. It was too fast. It was like a dissolving. At some point, I passed a critical threshold where I realized that I was not my ego, and my ego and these stories were unreal. That this dream of a family was unreal. And so my grief was also unreal. And this realization just seemed to create like a schism. And I feel like my ego kind of broke free. And instead of being glued to my eyes, it floated away in my brain. It's still there, but it's not in control. And the next day, I woke up feeling very different. I woke up feeling very calm. Certain things I had a lot of energy. I've been standing almost constantly. I sit down to do these videos, but I find I stand all day, and I walk and I run, and as I walk, I jump over things and I skip, and I have energy when I'm active, but my nervous system is still very calm. And I started to learn very rapidly just about what I was experiencing, and experimented even more with the things that I'd been doing, like presence and acceptance and non-judgment. And immediately I feel the rightness, the trueness of acceptance dissolves. That what's left of my ego still reacts to things. Eckhart Tolle called it a pain body. And I feel it still wanting to react sometimes. I feel it still sometimes reacting, and I may even make a reaction for the outside world. But as I accept it over the subsequent days, as I accept that it acts on something and I accept its action and why it acts and so on, which I see very clearly, because now I'm an outsider looking at these triggers and these behaviors and so on. As I accept each thing, it dissolves. And this pain body, for me, is rapidly dissolving. And so the process has been, it's not instant. You don't instantly kill all of your ego. You don't instantly reach Christ consciousness or anything, but you break the ego loose to where you clearly see it as separate, and you can clearly see its internal workings. And if you additionally learn these practices like acceptance, how to interact, how to be, it will continue to dissolve, which is the process that I'm still in at the moment. Still becoming more and more present, learning how to do it in conversations and so on, or what not to say of the new revelations that I've had. One thing I didn't mention, the day I was listening to Tool, I felt a throbbing, a tingling and a throbbing here, all around, and also in the back, like if you drew a line through my skull. And ever since, when I focus on presence, I start to feel something here. Sometimes being present and this feeling here is overwhelmingly joyful, and I just shake my head, and it's like ecstasy radiating out from my third eye. But other times, like right now, it's very just calm and peaceful and very subtle. So I would say shadow work and combined with presence, combined with this realization, the concept of you beyond your ego. Those things together showed me all of myself, helped me find what is behind myself, and helped me accept that what is behind myself is not my ego. What is behind my ego? It showed me my ego and my shadow. They're one and the same. It showed me what was behind, and it showed me that I am not my ego. And I believe that's more or less the journey for everyone. So I hope many of you follow.